Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're reviewing for you Everybody 1-2 Switch for the Nintendo Switch. This review was originally written by Jim Norman and has been adapted for video by me. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Many of us will have seen the meme format that goes, if I had a nickel for every time blank happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? It's a phrase that we could apply to a wide range of gaming scenarios, but having played Everybody 1-2 Switch, the successor to 2017's 1-2 Switch, we couldn't help but be reminded of it. 1-2 Switch was released as a launch title for the Switch back in 2017, alongside Breath of the Wild and a handful of other games that made up the console's relatively small catalogue at the time. One of these spawned one of the most anticipated sequels of all time, whilst the other was left as an ultimately forgettable mark on the Switch's otherwise strong opening year. No prizes for guessing which was which. 6 years on and following the release of that much-discussed sequel, which is Tears of the Kingdom if you didn't get that already, Nintendo dropped the surprise announcement that the company's other quote-unquote big launch title would also be getting a follow-up in the shape of Everybody 1-2 Switch. The first game was harmless fun, but overall pretty forgettable, so would the second be able to use the ensuing 6-year gap to improve the formula in any meaningful way? The answer... no. Being that bit cheaper than its predecessor, do remember that 1-2 Switch launched at full retail price. Everybody 1-2 Switch is a more attractive purchase on the surface. It's true, there are fewer minigames on offer this time, 17 compared to the original's 28, but with the more respectable price tag of £24.99 or $29.99, and multiple variants of the 17 games at your disposal, this certainly offers more bang for your buck. The actual quality of said bang, by which we mean the minigames themselves, is much the same as what we saw in the first title, albeit with the added perk of being able to connect and play using your phone. Overall, the minigames are a mixed bag. Gone is the tech demo appeal of the first title, where we could look past the shortcomings of a particular game's objectives because it showed us one of the Joy-Con's cool features. We know what the Switch is capable of now, so the games have to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And for the most part, they do. Mostly. A lot of the games are nothing new, and anyone who has played more than one round of Mario Party, or even the first 1-2 Switch, will find very few surprises. Balloons has you holding the Joy-Con horizontally and moving it up and down to inflate an on-screen balloon to its largest size before it pops. Relay Race is a typical shake fast to win affair as you emulate a sprint, passing the controller between teammates to run each leg. Statues is all about getting to your goal undetected, walking with your controller and freezing when the on-screen child looks at you with those eyes. It's fun for a round or two, but we can't see ourselves ever coming back for more. The standouts are when games embrace a WarioWare-esque weirdness and encourages you to laugh at someone playing the game instead of actually thinking about the competition. Hip Bump sees you and a friend standing back to back, pushing your behind out in quick succession to try and shove your opponent's avatar out of the ring. UFOs is all about repeating strange movements in unison to welcome extraterrestrial life to planet Earth. They're silly, but at least they're not as forgettable, even if UFOs is literally just doing the same thing on repeat. The main game mode is Team Contest, where you choose between a 20, 40, or 60-minute party and race to become the first team to rack up 3, 5, or 7 wins respectively. There are also Quiz Party and Bingo Party modes where teams play either a quiz or, you guessed it, bingo instead of the standard minigames, but the absence of any kind of objective-based game mode like Wii Party's Board Game Island or even 1-2 Switch's Team Battle, many of these games lack a sense of replayability. Fortunately, the new mobile phone connectivity provides some different ways to play that don't feel like covering old ground. One of Everybody 1-2 Switch's quote-unquote unique features is that you don't have to have the required number of Joy-Con for everybody to be able to play, with 12 of the minigames offering the chance to use your phone as a controller instead, and 4 of them only use the mobile or smart devices, so there's that. Choosing Smart Device mode from the game's home screen brings up a QR code which you can scan to register your device as a controller. This opens up the range of minigame possibilities that also make use of the phone's camera and touchscreen options, producing something that feels a little bit like a new party game in the process, if you've never played Jackbox. Color Shoot has you using your camera to match the trending color on screen, which was genuinely actually quite fun. And Ice Cream Parlor will have you taking notes on your phone's touchscreen and then relaying the orders back. A lot of the games give you the opportunity to use your phone or Joy-Con, both offering motion control, which at least gives the chance for more people to get involved. And as any party game pro will know, these play experiences live or die on having a willing group of players. Everybody 1-2-Switch can be played by up to 100 people in smart device mode, something that we can only imagine being used at events and rarely by anyone else. And after playing through all the minigames, we can see that this was a title that was designed with large groups of people in mind. We tried the game out with 2, 3, and 4 players on separate occasions, and the lack of people in the first 2 instances was immediately clear. Each of the games is team-based, and a lot of the fun is lost in a 1v1, 1v2, or even a 2v2 scenario. There was no one to pass the baton to in Relay Race, and musical chairs, which was all about being the last man standing, was over way before it even began. We can imagine that with a group of 10 or more willing friends, a lot of these games would be a lot more enjoyable, but with no single-player mode and the team-based objectives dominating most of the options, you will need to get a minimum of 4 players involved to make the most of the games on offer, and we know that that is far from easy. Everybody 1-2-Switch is a perfectly serviceable party game when playing through one of the mini-games that offers something new, but those moments are few and far between. The rest of the games are not by any means bad, but they fail to stand out in the already loaded table of Nintendo party titles. Combine this with a notable step down in quality when playing with fewer people, and we're left thinking that this is a game that will only be brought out in very, very specific circumstances. It's a harmless party game, but it doesn't come close to what Nintendo has achieved in that genre in the past. You've reached the end of the review, and that means it's time for Alex's personal thoughts, and I'd like to preface this by saying that I played all of this with only 2 people, because I didn't want to impose this on anyone else, to be honest. I think Ollie, with the deepest respect, is being very kind. Very kind. Aside from the color shoot mode, which I genuinely thought was actually really good fun, you know, scanning your environment looking for a particular color is genuinely something kind of new and fun and that I've not seen in any game before. Well, not every other game, but so many of the other games, like UFO just going up and down to the rhythm. It's like a rhythm game with no interest whatsoever. It's just you just move your device or your Joy-Con up, down, up, down, up, down, and then eventually left, right, left. It's boring as hell. I've played a fair few party games in a similar vein, you know, the likes of Jackbox in the past, and I really enjoy them, but I enjoy them because they offer agency to the player, you know. It's the players coming up with the silly answers, the funny things to say, and the ludicrous situations or the silly drawings. But there's none of that here beyond, well, I mean, you can come up with your own quiz in the quiz party mode, but it's pointless, frankly, because if you've written the question, you immediately know the answer. You can only give 2 answers, and, you know, you can write something stupid. You can also write things with the incorrect answer and trip people up. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. The game gives the illusion of having a load of different mini-games, but to be honest, the bulk of them are just variations on the standard one that you've done before. You know, you'll play, you know, like a cooking timer, and then that will disappear and be replaced with Cooking Timer 2. And if you're expecting some wild change in the gameplay, it's usually just, you know, the duration is longer, that you've got to wait and count, and that's not enough. It's a cheap game, which helps, and the production quality is actually really good. You can tell that this is a Nintendo title for one thing. Having said that, if this was made by any other company whatsoever, I don't think anyone would give it the time of day. I played through a number of hours with my partner, and we were just bored. We were just bored senseless. If it hadn't been for trying to get capture, I would have given up hours earlier. And the only, you know, in the end, I did actually have to just say, should we stop? And just because I couldn't be bothered to play anymore. It wasn't even like the games were horrible. They were just nothingy. Horace does absolutely nothing as a host. You could just remove him. Nothing would change. Bingo is literally just bingo with nothing. You know, the only sort of twist to it is, I mean, for one thing, it's roulette based and you can see the numbers. So if you're the one stopping the wheel, you can just stop the number. You can stop the roulette wheel at the number you want. What's the point? It should, you know, make it random at the very least. The whole thing feels half-baked. I'm just really hoping that another better party game takes the sort of the general idea of Color Shoot, because that is really good fun. You know, sort of like scrabbling around your living room or wherever you are looking for a particular color. Yeah, it's genuinely really interesting, and you can look at the other person or other people and you can see them eyeing up the same thing as you, and you're both dashing over to try and get the better shot of it, you know. And you know, my partner Sasha was like using creating shadow with her hand to slightly adjust the color to darken it slightly to be a closer match. That's fantastic. That's a really cool idea. It just doesn't stand up as a whole game in itself. And surrounded by the other games, yeah, it's nothing. And the horse's head thing is like 10 years out of date. Just, Nintendo what?